This is so weird. I just realized this may be the last time we're all hanging out together.
On May the 6th, 2004, the world's best-loved sitcom finally came to an end.
I think if you ask anyone involved with the show that's been here for the whole run, they'd say that this has really changed their lives.
Hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me!
Oh, my God!
What is the matter with you?
Over 234 episodes, we witnessed every trial and tribulation in the lives of 6 New Yorkers as they struggled to find love and happiness in the big city.
We were on the brink!
These 6 characters have kind of found their way into the hearts of people all over the world.
Whether you're Japanese, British, French, we all know people like that.
It seems to have always been with me, like some kind of dream of a better life with more attractive people.
Yeah, officially the show is huge. What can I say?
But Friends was more than just a sitcom. It so changed the way we lived our lives.
You go into a barber and say, I want that haircut. You go into a fashion store and say, I want to wear those sort of clothes. You could live the whole Friends lifestyle package in one.
I know I actively searched for restaurants and cafes that had sofas in because I wanted to be like in Friends.
Yeah, I'll have a cup of that.
Suddenly, it seemed like you had to have 6 friends. You had to be one of 6, and if you weren't, there was something abnormal about you.
Ew! Ew, ew, ew!
I think that these guys did a real bang-up job in making people laugh consistently for 10 years.
How you doing?
Friends is proof that the sitcom can communicate in a global, universal, multi-generational way. That doesn't happen all the time. It might not happen again.
Bitchin'.
10 years ago, when Friends first hit our screens, the world was experiencing social upheaval. Elections, riots and grey politicians dominated Britain in the early 90s.
Time to get back to basics, to self-discipline and respect for the law.
Things were very uptight. It was before Cool Britannia, before New Labour, before like Britpop. Things were a bit grim, to be honest.
Youth culture in particular had run out of steam.
We were the first generation who we were told weren't going to do better than our parents did, and we all were kind of giving up.
The baby boom generation had now aged and had its own kids and were getting responsibilities and the rest of it. You had this Generation X that at first appeared like it was going to be identified as the slackers, the people who smelled like teen spirit.
They weren't happy. And the reason they weren't happy was they were feeling directionless. They were feeling like that the things that their parents had told them weren't coming true.
My parents, by the time they were in their early 30s, had a marriage, had children, and my life looked nothing like that. And not only did my life look nothing like that, none of my friends' lives looked anything like that. We're not joining the political and social organizations our parents joined. So there's this vacuum in our social life, and my belief is into that vacuum has rushed our friends.
The idea, what had previously been presented on television as the ideal family, really wasn't matching up with a lot of viewers' realities.
The previous decade had kind of been defined by The Cosby Show, Family Ties, you know, feel-good family comedies.
And they just get up and they just say, whoa!
And in Britain, the highest-rated comedies were hardly aimed at the younger generation.
What's all that racket out there in the night? People banging about and giggling. Did you hear it?
I didn't hear anything. And how long do we have to put up with this vile object up here?
What's the matter with it? I thought it was rather unusual.
At that point in television, there wasn't really a lot on for, you know, that people in their mid-20s were going to get excited about.
We'd seen every sitcom plot. We'd seen every hour-long plot. We'd seen every movie. We heard every song, every video. We were so sort of jaded with, we were kind of more interested in the minutiae of things.
An entire generation had been abandoned by sitcom. But thanks to Marta Kaufman and David Crane, the seeds of the future could be found in a small late-night cable show.
David Crane and Marta Kaufman were a writing team who had broken out of sort of the New York theater world, and they hooked up with Kevin Bright, who was more of a producer and a guy who had a sense of the directing and the editing, and they came together on Dream On, and that was their hit.
Dream On was an off-the-wall series on American cable channel HBO about a divorced dreamer, Martin Tupper, whose emotional state of mind is revealed in a series of old film clips.
Oh, what a lovely bowl. You know, I gave ceramics a go once. The charm soon wore off. Uniform was quite flattering, I suppose.
I was a regular character in it, and I really liked the show because it was very irreverent. It was on HBO and Fox. It was very unusual. The format of it was different, and it was very grown up.
Let's get the hell out of here.
I'm right behind you.
One of the interesting things about Dream On is that it was also a place where you could see some friends before they were friends. That includes Courtney Cox and Matthew Perry.
Look, once you get settled in, I'll take you to lunch and maybe, you know, give you some pointers.
Oh, thanks. That'd be great. This is so neat. I mean, I've read books before, but to help make them? Wow.
Come along, Alex. Hey, my door's always open.
Dream On won a host of Emmys in its 6-year run, but Kaufman and Crane now concentrated on creating a mainstream hit for this new generation.
We had just come off of Dream On, and we were looking to do something that was an ensemble show. We didn't want to use one star. And David and I, over the course of time, came up with the idea for Friends, based on, in a way, our experiences in our 20s when we lived in New York, and we're part of a group of 6 people.
It's not like they just pulled a Monica out of the sky and a Ross out of the sky. They're based on people, so they really, I think that's what, you know, was made it so easy, and it makes their dialogue so fantastic, is that it's, you know, they're not made up, they're real people.
Oh, God, come on, you guys, is this really necessary? I mean, I can stop charging anytime I want. Come on, Rachel, you can't live off your parents your whole life. I know that. That's why I was getting married.
In doing that, they were really very, very brilliant and very lucky, because I think initially the thought was this would be something that all these people in their 20s would watch, but what they found is that it's a time of life that was interesting to everybody. People who were younger, kids, would aspire to, wow, this is about finally being a grown-up. Grown-ups would look at it and go, God, remember when I had freedom? And the people in it are so self-involved by the very nature of being young, they wanted to watch themselves in the mirror that is television.
I don't know if it was by accident or by design, but Martin and David hired people who were the same age as the characters. I was like 24 at the time, and we were such idiots. Like, the stuff that we were suggesting was so crazy because none of us had had jobs before, maybe just like one writing job. We were making ourselves laugh, and luckily what we thought was funny, everybody else did too.
The crew now set about preparing to make a pilot for the new show, but they still hadn't come up with a name.
We knew we were going to have a coffee house, and there's one here in LA called Insomnia Cafe, and it was sort of the kind of place we had in mind, but we didn't want a show called Insomnia Cafe. My life partner, Jeffrey, suggested 6 of 1, which it was for a while, and then it became Friends Like Us, and then NBC said, okay, we'll pick up the show if you just call it Friends. Well, anything that starts with, we'll pick up the show if, the answer is sure.
So much that it's faded.
All that was left now was the final and most important decision. Who would star in this groundbreaking show?
The producers kind of described themselves as professional neurotics, so they agonized over it, over who to cast, and went through many tests and brought a lot of people back.
You see them in an audition, then you see them again, then you see them maybe a third time, and then you commit. And so it is the biggest crapshoot in the world.
The producers took the bold move of casting 6 unknown actors to make up their ensemble. But where had they come from, and could they pull it off?
wanna be like you.
Back in 1994, David Crane, Marta Kaufman and Kevin Bright had the basis of a show that would go on to create television history, but they needed a cast.
A lot of comedy shows are shows that were built around a stand-up. Roseanne, Ellen DeGeneres, Robin Williams, those shows, which I think generally are awful because it's just their shtick the whole time.
But where Friends revolutionized TV was in casting 6 unknown actors in the leading roles.
I think when all of the actors came to Friends, there wasn't a great deal of experience behind them, and which I think was brilliant for the TV sitcom here. These blank canvases arrived. They hadn't built up the iconography that you might get from having done bit parts in films.
I believe that of the 6 actors, LeBlanc had the least amount of credits. He really had not done a lot. He was truly just a novice actor.
Matt LeBlanc had actually started his career as a model, having turned his back on life as a carpenter in Boston.
I had just gotten fed up with doing construction and, you know, working outside in the cold, framing houses, and someone had said I should go to New York to get into modeling, so I said, okay, anything to not have to bang nails in the snow.
Matt's smouldering good looks won him a series of parts in commercials, including this award-winning ad for a well-known ketchup.
Hot dog, please.
More mustard on that.
No, thanks. I got it covered.
But Matt's lack of experience meant the Friends producers needed convincing.
I auditioned, I think, like 8 times. I had to keep coming back and keep coming back, and the last one I read with Courtney and Jennifer, who were both cast already.
Courtney Cox had made television history appearing in America's first advert for sanitary towels.
Remember, there's a feeling with Tampax. It can actually change the way you feel about your period.
Not content with breaking taboos, Courtney then boosted her profile in one of the 80s most iconic videos.
She got pulled up on stage for 26 seconds of film dancing with the boss, and her career was launched from that point.
You were in this for 24 seconds,
right,
but your whole life has changed from that.
I know. It got me into the door. It was easy for my agent to say, she's the girl in the Bruce Springsteen video, and they immediately recognized me. And they were very lucky for just 24 seconds that they would.
I think people, when they think of Courtney Cox's first big role, it's always going to be that Bruce Springsteen video. So coming into Friends, Courtney was probably the most recognizable face of the bunch.
Thank you.
Some of the potential cast had already had experience of sitcoms. Lisa Kudrow had bit parts on numerous shows and was even cast as Roz on Frasier.
She actually did get the part as Roz in Frasier and was fired. And that happens a lot. You know, they get you on the set and the chemistry isn't right or whatever. That's happened to me a couple times. I remember that was hard for her. It's not easy for anybody. And so when Friends came along, I think she must have realized that at least things worked out for the best.
When we shot the pilot and I didn't get fired, I thought, okay, so this character's mine, that's good.
Lisa wasn't the only one who'd struggled to make it in sitcoms.
Let's set some ground rules here. I am a senior, you are a nothing.
Got it.
Good. When we're at school, pretend we are not related.
Okay.
Good. Keep a low profile.
The lowest.
Fine.
Ta-ta.
As a relative unknown, Jennifer Aniston fit the bill perfectly.
I'd done 6 failed television shows, so I'd read my share of, sitcoms out there. And this was just one of a kind. It really was.
But despite hiring unknowns, the Friends producers did come up against some difficulties.
Matthew Perry was unavailable. When we first wanted to do the show, he was doing something else. He was one of the first names on our list. He wasn't available.
I did this pilot that was about baggage handlers in It gets so much worse. This pilot was about baggage handlers in the year 2194. Then this script came around, and everybody was auditioning for it, and my buddies were saying, wow, this script is so great, and I was off the market because of the baggage handler show. And then the producers ultimately saw the pilot that I had done and said, you know what, I don't think this is going to get picked up. I think he might be available. So then I read for Marta Kaufman, the producer, on Wednesday, and then I read for Warner Brothers, the studio, on Thursday, and then I read for the network on Friday, and then I started work on Monday.
Plus, the man who came to dinner.
The meatloaf is delicious, Mrs. Arnold.
By the early 90s, David Schwimmer had established a career as a TV actor with regular parts in many well-known shows.
Hi.
Hi. Look, Karen, why don't we take a walk and talk this over?
There's nothing to talk about.
What does that mean?
Michael.
Karen, all I did was ask you to marry me.
Whoops.
But despite some success, Schwimmer decided that theatre was his real passion.
David Schwimmer had done a sitcom and had sort of fled the inanity of bad sitcoms to go to Chicago and run his theater company, and they really had to beg and plead to get him back because they had wanted him for an earlier show.
I had auditioned for the producers a year prior for another pilot they had written, and I didn't get that one. I went to network for that, and I didn't get it, but I guess they remembered my persona or my voice, and I guess had the role of Ross. They were hearing my voice when they wrote that character.
And eventually they broke down his spirit enough that he agreed to do it, and I trust that he's rather happy that worked out well, because I believe you don't make $1 million a week doing theater in Chicago with your own company.
In the summer of 1994, the 6 future friends finally met at Warner Brothers Lot 24 to film the pilot for a show that would change their lives forever.
Hi.
This guy says hello, I want to kill myself.
You okay, sweetie?
I just feel like someone reached down my throat, grabbed my small intestine, pulled it out of my mouth, and tied it around my neck. Cookie?
Our first run-through, the 6 of them in the coffee house, and I got chills up my spine because they looked like they'd known each other forever. I just got a chill up my spine, and I knew it was magical. Didn't know if the show would get on the air because we have no control over that. But I knew we had something.
Carol moved her stuff out today. Oh. Let me get you some coffee.
Thanks.
You never knew she was a lesbian.
No, okay? Why does everyone keep fixating on that?
Sometimes I wish I was a lesbian. Did I say that out loud?
But the show wasn't an instant hit.
I think initially a lot of people dismissed Friends as a very lightweight comedy. It was just a kind of another typical sitcom. The fact that it was populated by relative unknowns, there was no big star attached to it. It was a show that sort of entered the American consciousness completely under the radar.
TV Guide gave it a very small chance of succeeding, wrote it off. It's not the first time magazines make mistakes, and it won't be the last. But I think the expectations for Friends when it debuted were very modest. I don't think anybody thought it would be a huge hit.
I must admit, for the first few years, I found the whole Friends lifestyle quite obnoxious because it's that classic American show thing where you've got people who are doing fairly low-paid jobs, living in an apartment the size of an aircraft hangar in New York, and they all just, like, love each other so much, and they're all, like, they're great, great friends. And sometimes you watch it and you look at it and you think, actually, my friends are a bit shit.
It just didn't seem quite right that they all lived together and so nearby, that they were so close. And I think a lot of people felt like that and didn't watch from that point of view for a while. Just thought, I don't want to see these people. They're too good looking.
It's not just that these people are good looking, they're very, very good looking. And yet they're going around the whole time saying, oh, I'm not very good looking, am I? And I can't get a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And you just think, of course you can. And you live in this huge, great big, extraordinary loft apartment, which is not supposed to be very nice either. And that's a hurdle to get over at the start.
What is wrong with New Year's?
Well, nothing for you. You have Paolo. You don't have to face the horrible pressures of this holiday.
desperate scramble to find anything with lips just so you can have somebody to kiss when the ball drops. Man, I'm talking loud.
Despite initial hostility to the show, as the series progressed, the viewing figures crept steadily up.
Are you surprised that the show has been so successful? It's like the #2 comedy. Yeah, did you know that?
No. We had no idea, and there was no way to possibly know how big it was going to get. But I guess it was over the summer in '95 when they started airing the show after Seinfeld, and it became #1 in reruns over the summer. And I suppose right around then was when the kind of big, phenomenal success of it all hit us, and we had to make those adjustments.
Oh, the cow in the meadow goes moo. Oh, the cow in the meadow goes moo. Then the farmer hits him on the head and grinds him up, and that's how we get hamburgers.
By the second season, Friends had begun to gain a huge cult following. For fans of this show, it was more like a religion than a sitcom.
I realized I was starting to like my friends on TV better than I like my friends in real life.
In 1995, English fans also became caught up in the fervour when Friends hit our screens.
It sounds ridiculous now, but at the time, it was sort of, I don't know, it was like an in-joke, and it was like you were part of something bigger.
Me and my girlfriends, we used to make a point of getting together on a Friday night to watch it. There was a reason for us to be friends, to watch Friends.
You enjoyed being with them, and it was better than going out to a bar with your own boring friends.
I think we look at those characters on the Friends TV show, and we see people that seem very much like the people in our lives. I don't think we're actually looking at them and thinking, boy, wouldn't it be great to have friends like those? I think we actually do have friends like those. They may not be as funny, but they're as funny to us.
Viewers fell instantly in love with the 6 characters who spent most of their lives in Central Perk. Uniquely for a sitcom, Friends began to influence the lifestyle it set out to reflect.
It was so serendipitous for Friends that it set a lot of its action inside a coffee shop. The rise of this show paralleled the sort of Starbuckization in America, where coffee shops started appearing on every corner of every town, and places like Starbucks became almost like the town meeting center.
Let me just see if I've got this right. So this is a half-calf, double tall, easy hazelnut, non-fat, no foam, with whip, extra hot latte, right? Okay, great. You freak.
People go to cafes now. People meet, you know, at the coffee station doing their sugars and half and skim and soy and all that. That's like that's a new big kind of meeting point for people. It's a big kind of new non-alcoholic pub. It's not expensive. You can come here and hang out. You can get out of your apartment, and it's not like you have to buy, you know, or spend a lot of money.
The Friends effect was first felt over here in 1995, the same year we got our first coffee shop chain.
When we opened Coffee Republic, people didn't know what it was. So people referred to us as, you're the new Friends-style coffee bar. And so very much, you know, how especially kind of when we went outside London, we were just known as a Friends-type coffee bar. At first I couldn't understand it as such, because I'd seen it in New York, and whereas it's so obvious, the connection, and Friends became the point of reference for us.
When Friends first started, in a really childish way, one of the reasons I didn't like it was because I was like, where's the bar? Every American sitcom has a bar. You have to. That's where everyone comes together, and they still do that. And in Friends, it's a coffee shop. And I was like, that's not true. And of course, within about 2 years, every street corner in Britain was covered in a Starbucks or whatever, another coffee shop.
In 1995, there were only 2 coffee chain outlets in the UK. But after 10 years of Friends, there are over 5,000.
Certainly Friends set a whole style, you know, the feeling that, oh, I'm in Friends now, which I'm sure the coffee bars exploited, didn't they? They should really have been in bars or pubs, really, shouldn't they? I mean, at their age.
I'm 29 years old, damn it, and I want to sit in a comfortable chair and watch television and go to sleep at a reasonable hour.
Yeah, and I like to hang out in a quiet place where I could talk to my friends.
Yeah. And so what if I like to go home, throw on some Kenny G, and take a bath?
We're 29, we're not women.
One of the reasons that Friends was becoming so influential was its team of young writers who would work on a script right up to the point it was filmed to ensure it was fresh and relevant.
The way it's done is to have one writer or two writers write the initial storyline, maybe a draft script, and then have loads of people come in and try and beef the script up. And I think it does work, actually, but it's not the way that people generally write in this country.
There was a committee of about 15 writers, and they had to drop their egos at the door and say, yes, your joke is funnier than my joke.
No, I think it's funnier when it's got a few line build-up. Sorry. No, the acting, I loved it. It was vivid. It was like, wow, where'd Sean go?
From day one, Marta and David really made it clear that we were going to stay until it was perfect, or until it was as good as we could possibly make it. And then they really instilled that in us, and we just acted the same way.
We go till all hours of the morning getting it right, and the irony is, if we've done our job really well, the whole thing looks effortless.
There's a pretty solid litmus test for comedy, is are people laughing or not, you know? And you only really know that when you have an audience there in front of you.
Friends was always filmed in front of a live audience, and uniquely, this became a crucial part of the success of each show.
When we start a show each week, it's like the beginning of a rock concert, is the only thing I can say. The applause when the cast enters is just, it's like being inside an arena.
My biggest memory is just walking into what looks like an anonymous TV studio and suddenly thinking, oh my God, that's Joey's apartment. And right next to is Central Perk. And all these places that you've seen every day, week in, week out, and suddenly you're walking around, you're actually there. It's absolutely amazing. It's just fun. We did it for about 8 hours, and you just felt like you were... It was just really, really fun that you knew that they were really valuing what you were doing.
Marker.
What are you talking about? If you get married in Vegas, you're married everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well.
Is it clear at the end that she's talking about herself and not about Ross and Rachel?
The oh my God isn't big.
The oh my God has to be bigger, okay.
There's quite a lot of interaction with the audience as well, where they say, did you get that gag? Did you understand that gag?
Who did not get it?
Who did not get the fact that Phoebe was married in Vegas?
From that joke.
She says, oh my God.
That at some time in the past she was married in Las Vegas.
You guys got yes.
They got it. Great. Beautiful.
If something is not working, it doesn't play as well as they expected it to play, there's an immediate huddle, and things will just get fixed.
Anything else on 10?
One little pitch on 9?
Yes.
We're so free to pitch lines and anything we feel like doing. If it's not great, you know, the answer is no, but you get to try lots of stuff. It's great. It's great. I think to do a comedy, it's got to be that free and easygoing and loose, and it's great. I can't believe Ross and Rachel got married.
I know. I didn't even know they were dating again. I don't think there's much dating as they are drunk.
I don't think they're dating as much dating as they are very, very drunk. Something fun and emphatic there. You know what? Why don't we ask him, and that because it's so like Matthew.
Okay. I don't think there's much dating as they are acting out a scene from Barfly.
The actors and the writers just kind of fused creatively.
There's much dating as there are 2 bottles of vodka walking around in human form.
Yes.
We knew how they were most comfortable speaking. They knew what we were trying to get across.
I didn't even know they were dating again. Well, I don't think they're as much dating as they are 2 bottles of vodka walking around in human form.
The dynamic on set was that of a sort of relaxed productivity. You know, it wasn't lazy or uninspired. It just, so much of the garbage was out of the way because they knew what they were doing. And at that point, they knew what they were doing was good.
Despite its mainstream success, Friends was developing into an extraordinary sitcom.
I wanna be like you.
By 1996, the young generation was finding its voice. The nation had started its love affair with Britpop, and the newspapers were filled with a love affair of a different kind.
I have no comment. No comment.
Friends' popularity was reaching its height, and it was yet another blossoming love story that kept audiences tuning in.
You know, you probably didn't know this, but back in high school, I had a major crush on you.
I know.
You did? Oh, okay. I always figured you just thought I was Monica's geeky older brother.
I did.
Oh.
I think probably if you were to play word association with friends, it would still be Ross and Rachel are the sort of people who would first come to mind.
The whole Ross and Rachel plot line was incredibly important to the show. I think it was like the heart of the show.
Few romances have captured the attention of audiences the way Ross and Rachel's has on the show Friends. But it has not always been roses for this new couple.
The viewers' fascination with Ross and Rachel's will they, won't they relationship drove the ratings through the roof.
What? You're over me? When were you under me?
It was always humming in the background. There was this sense that in the end, there really was this deep structure of two forces that need to come together, and even though all this stuff has kept them apart, that in the end, eventually, Titanic Ross has to hit iceberg Rachel, and it's just the way it's going to be.
You watch them fall in love, fall out of love.
Right when you think they will, it just starts missing its mark and they kind of go off in other directions again. Just keeps you kind of pulling the heartstrings.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of history between them. I mean, from high school.
Hey, Monica, what's on this videotape?
Oh, you got me. Put it in.
Ross and Rachel's love affair allowed the viewers to find out more about the characters in a unique way. These would become some of Friends' best-loved moments.
Okay. I see Rachel's coming up the path. Oh, doesn't she look pretty, Jack? You get this.
Oh, my God.
What is with your nose?
The one with the prom video was just, I think, is still my favorite episode. And it was such a fun and interesting way to get to know people much better than we ever could in present day, that it just seemed like we had to do it.
Where's Monica? Over here, Dad.
Wait, how do you zoom out? There she is.
Some girl ate Monica.
I think the first time we found out that Monica used to be very fat, that was a big deal, you know, especially in America where we're so weight conscious. And for, you know, Courtney Cox to put on this fat suit, which was very, very startling.
I loved it. Once you kind of get into it and you put your clothes on, it just was really, it's just a fun character to play, and she's just a lot freer. Fat Monica just is free, and she's kind of goofy.
She was great, and she used to dance in it to like disco music and like in between takes, and it was pretty amusing.
Oh, Dad, turn it off.
It is off.
Dad, it is not. What's with the red light?
It's the off light. Right, Ross?
The flashback episodes are among the most beloved in Friends, and I think for good reason. Because these characters are so candid, they're so frank, by the time we got through 2 seasons, we really knew these characters very well. Viewers have a relationship to Friends that's fairly unusual for a television show.
I have a wonderful idea. You should take Rachel to the prom.
Doubtful.
Jack, give me that. Talk to your son.
It was almost like their past became this parallel story that so perfectly fit into their present.
Rachel, ready or not, here comes your knight in shining. Oh, no.
Bye, Rachel.
Oh, dear. I can't believe you did that.
Yeah, well.
I think those flashback episodes really began to indicate that there was some real art going on in this show.
You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, right round, round, round.
The flashbacks told us more about the characters that we'd grown to love. But Friends also introduced us to some new cult heroes.
Yes, Gunther, can I get 2 cups of Chino, please? Good one.
I was working at a real coffee shop in Hollywood called the Bourgeois Pig. And I'd done some work with a second assistant director on a previous show. So he said, come on in, there's a coffee shop in this new series called Friends. And they're looking for someone who actually knows how to work a cappuccino machine.
What does Rachel see in this guy? I love Rachel. I wish she was my wife.
I don't see myself as an international superstar. Possibly a cult icon, you know, just a very lucky, fortunate man. That's the way I consider myself.
Oh, I finished it! I did it all by myself! And there's nobody to hug!
It's not just carrying a cappuccino that will elevate you to iconic status.
Sometimes she snorts, sometimes, you know, it's got all kinds of notes to it.
Janice, for example, a wonderful sitcom character. I mean, one of the great creations in sitcom history. The laugh, the uncanny ability to pop up just at the most unexpected time, the ability to be both charming and lovable at the same time you want to strangle her kind of thing. Great character.
She's a very whiny, very jappy, very, broad character with a laugh that cracks glass.
You seek me out. Something deep in your soul calls out to me like a foghorn. Janice, Janice.
At the beginning of every year, we'd be like, okay, you know, how's Janice going to come back this year?
He hooked up.
Tell us about her.
Ross, you left your scarf in the... Hey, you guys.
Draw.
You're a freak. Okay, here's your penis.
Together, the Friends cast helped create some of the most memorable storylines on TV. But where the show was so different was that these weren't your average sitcom plots.
I think the funny thing with Friends is because when I first saw it, I thought this is a comedy that hasn't got any issues in it, so that was unappealing to me. But in fact, of course, when you look back over the years, they've done like a woman coming out as a lesbian who's married to a guy. They've done surrogate mothers, 24-hour porn. There's a lot of stuff that they managed to get in there before the watershed and do it in a very kind of light touch kind of way, which is kind of interesting.
It's quite a bold statement anyway for the whole of the sort of bedrock of Friends to be started on the fact that Ross has broken up with his lesbian wife.
Ross, you remember Susan?
How could I forget?
Ross.
Hello, Susan. Good shake. Good shake.
It's not the fact that they're lesbians or that she is a lesbian having found a new partner that's made a joke of. It's Ross's inability to deal with it. You know, he's shown up to be the prick, not them. And I think that's a very Friends way of dealing with very difficult situations.
That opens my cervix.
One thing we forget about those sitcoms is because they're on Channel 4 in this country, there's a sort of illusion we have that they're minority things, whereas these are the top-rated sitcoms. So in this kind of incredible mass market culture that is North America, where apparently things are very monitored and you're not allowed to say this, yet these sitcoms are able to deal with that.
What the hell was that? Just wanted to see what all the fuss was about. And? I've had better.
Friends managed to deal with a lot of controversial subjects just by the fact that it was such a sunny, bright, upbeat show on the surface that they could suddenly plop in a detail like Phoebe's mother having committed suicide, and you accepted this as part of Phoebe's character.
I remember when I first came to this city, I was 14. My mom had just killed herself and my stepdad was back in prison. And I got here and I didn't know anybody. And I ended up living with this albino guy who was like cleaning windshields outside Port Authority. And then he killed himself. And then I found aromatherapy. So believe me, I know exactly how you feel.
But although most of us can laugh at the controversial topics covered in Friends, there are some that think it's irresponsible programming.
There's a lot of profanity in the shows. There is a lot, the sexual innuendo and the sexual content, not so much innuendo, but direct sexual content.
So what do you think? I've still got it.
I think that's concerning for American culture and what it means in terms of media consumption.
7 o'clock. Maybe I'll hit the gym. Who am I kidding? Pay-per-view porn.
There was an episode where one of the characters was, I believe, out of town on a trip and was in his hotel room watching a pornographic movie and masturbating, and his wife surprised him.
Do not disturb! Do not disturb! Monica?
Is everything all right?
Yeah, everything's great. It's just watching some regular television there.
Even for an adult audience, I think many of our members would be offended by that content.
No, I mean, America is tremendously hypocritical when it comes to sex. We use it to sell everything, but we don't talk about it, you know. So, I mean, they use sex to sell cars or beer or, you know, whatever. But no, we don't do it, actually. So, yes, the fact that Friends addressed a lot of the issues of sexuality, both, you know, being gay, being a surrogate mother, transvestite, all of the above, and the active sex lives that the characters themselves had, was very daring, I think, you know, very, almost scandalous.
Hello, all. Hi, Dad.
Charles? Aren't you a little old to be wearing a dress like that?
Don't you have a little too much penis to be wearing a dress like that?
It's always been an escapist show, even though it's done some things very bravely. Particularly gay characters just accepted as a matter of course, lesbian weddings, lesbians having children. That jokes about Chandler in a very loving way about his, is he gay, his gay father. For people who are gay in America, it was a wonderful breath of fresh air.
So, what is it about me?
I don't know. You have a quality.
Yes.
Right?
I think that the ambiguity with the Chandler character is really what made him funny. And they were always making jokes about Chandler being gay.
Chandler was never supposed to be gay. The thing with Chandler was write him gay, play him straight.
Chandler, I don't even want to see the musical Oklahoma.
Really? Oh, what a beautiful morning. Surrey with a fringe on top?
Are you trying to tell me that we're moving to Oklahoma or that you're gay?
You can so easily imagine all the things he says transferred to, you know, someone with, you know, with a cigarette sort of, you know, and a martini.
My word, those are snug.
Starring in the #1 comedy meant that the Friends cast were becoming just as famous off-screen as on.
Jennifer! You could feel something happening, and I'm not used to it happening in TV. It felt more like being with a band about to explode. It just had that sort of feeling of, you know, when you walked into a restaurant with them, heads turned, kids ran for autographs, you know, little girls cried. It felt more like a mania.
You really wanted to know a little bit more about them, so that they became sellable and commercial as magazine covers because of their characters and because of the characters they played.
If you put Friends on the cover of any magazine, the magazine circulation will go through the roof. They do sell magazines.
I can remember in the early days of Friends, the cast appeared as an ensemble on the cover of Rolling Stone, which at the time was sort of the ultimate symbol of making it as a pop culture icon in the States. They were like the Beatles of sitcoms.
I think Jennifer Aniston particularly has got a sort of certain kind of what the Americans call hominess to her. She looks like the kind of person who could knock you up with decent cake as well as be great in the bedroom, you know.
I am so hot for you right now.
I think that's very, you know, much a look that's really kind of become quite popular in England, like, you know, blonde highlights, bit of layers, you know, bit of fake tan, lip gloss. That's massive now. That is like the entire look of the 90s, I think.
The Jennifer Aniston hairdo was a phenomenon. I mean, it still works now. You know, if you put her on a hair magazine, she will double the sales of that magazine. There's just no... Women are fascinated by her hair.
There's definitely a part of you that says, why am I getting noticed for my haircut and not for my work?
Jennifer's haircut was so popular, it even had its own name.
The Rachel, the bane of every woman's life in the 90s. Women up and down the country with really thin hair like mine were desperately trying to get like this big kind of layered look.
Well, the Rachel haircut was a very, very influential look of that time. It just caught the public's imagination.
I think if you look back at the hair, it looks like a pedigree guinea pig. It's just this whole sort of big thing going on. But I think it was really exciting because it was like really choppy and different, and she went from quite a sort of mousy brown to this really sort of dynamic, blonde, choppy, sort of wows, fresh out of the salon kind of looking person.
I think what's interesting about all of the characters is that they are meant to be living in fairly cheap accommodation, but of course they're all walking around with serious $300 haircuts all the time and perfectly well groomed. I mean, I think the hair certainly almost had its own show.
A boogie down. A boogie down. A boogie down feature.
It's really funny actually doing this because it really sort of takes me back to that time in the 90s of doing all those haircuts. You know, some of the really, really popular ones do get after a while to the point where you dread the clients coming in. I mean, once I remember doing 11 of them in one day. It was just frightening.
That was such an enormously popular cut. You'd walk into a bar in New York and you'd say, look at all the Rachels, because that's all you'd see are these sort of helmet-like haircuts.
In sort of iconic terms, it will probably have more longevity than any of the other iconic looks that we've experienced over the past number of decades. There's the Rachel.
As the show's popularity continued to rise, we didn't just want to look like Friends, we wanted to live like them as well.
I wanna be like you!
I, Ross.
I, Ross.
Take thee, Emily. Take thee, Rachel.
By the late 1990s, Friends had become must-see TV on both sides of the Atlantic. The world was becoming a friendlier place.
If we look back to the late 90s, what's happening culturally and socially? Clinton's in the White House, we've got a very young president playing the saxophone, mucking around with his interns. It's a very youthful, very democratic, very vibrant society we've got then.
Generation X had been replaced by Generation Next, and people were tuning in their millions to see feel-good shows like Friends. Our newfound spending power meant that attaining the Friends lifestyle was becoming a real possibility.
I think what's unique about Friends' cultural impact and the cast impact is that we've never seen a sitcom with so many good-looking people on it who individually all became style icons.
I think it was a real first time you saw really young women in nice casual clothes and you could think, oh, I quite like a pair of those jeans, or I quite like a pair of those boots that Rachel was wearing.
Friends has definitely had a huge impact on the way we shop on the high street, the way girls want to sort of put their outfits together. Rachel especially had a huge impact.
I think it really is interesting that the wardrobe from the early years of Friends is so much what's happening right now.
Deborah Maguire's job was to establish a look for each of the characters that was original, stylish, and attainable.
I very strongly fought for it being a heightened reality and not seeing lots of denim and jeans, and really kind of making the clothes be something that people wanted to be like or aspire to. And I had to deal with color very strategically. So Monica was very black, white, gray, burgundy. That was really her palette. Rachel was a lot of blues and greens, and she sort of took care of those hues. And then Phoebe was my way of bringing color in and pattern, and I called her my 90s hippie girl. And it was a lot of very flowing, beautiful fabrics, lots of jewelry, color.
The nice thing about them was that they showed that you could wear all different kinds of styles. So Rachel would be 1 minute wearing an amazing evening dress, the next minute looking really cute in dungarees and a t-shirt. One of the big moments for me was when she wore those Maharishi trousers and the orange t-shirt. And Maharishi trousers just went whoom like that. Everyone was wearing them.
But it's not only the girls that have influenced popular style.
Well, I think what Friends pioneered with men's fashion was kind of like a dorky chic. It said to guys, hey, look, you can dress up a little bit. You don't have to come home in, a t-shirt and jeans all the time. And, they did become style icons in their own way.
Okay, buddy boy, here it is. You hide my clothes, I'm wearing everything you own.
Aspiring to the Friends lifestyle didn't just affect the way we dressed.
That is so not the opposite of taking somebody's underwear. Look at me, I'm Chandler. Could I be wearing any more clothes?
We were incredibly proud that some of the things that we came up with at 3 o'clock in the morning are now in the dictionary.
Maybe if I wasn't going commando.
Going commando, which is not wearing underwear, is now in Webster's, which just blows my mind.
When people say, oh, I am so over that, or that started on Friends, that kind of language, or could you be any stupider, or could you be any weirder, or I couldn't be any hungrier, all that, it's like, that all started on the show.
People don't realise how much that American language that has taken over really British language in the last 10 years, a lot of it came through Friends, a lot of that, I was like so bad, and all that kind of shit, and could you be any more of this, and all that kind of stuff, which is quite good, witty language. As a journalist, you like to use it. A lot of that's the conduit for a lot of it to come over to this country, I think.
Could we be more white trash?
Friends, I think, has been influential in more the catch attitude rather than the catch phrase.
All right, kids, I gotta get to work. If I don't input those numbers, doesn't make much of a difference.
I now call the ironic era we're in the Chandler Binging of America, because there is a sense that he so nailed that distanced, ironic, kind of off-putting, but at the same time funny and likable kind of character.
Friends has a very European sense of humour. I think it was one of the first sitcoms to really embrace sarcasm in a way that other American writing hadn't really done.
Bambi is a cartoon.
You didn't cry when Bambi's mother died?
Yes, it was very sad when the guy stopped drawing the deer.
Matthew Perry is one of the best deliverers of comic lines that I've ever seen on television. I mean, his style, his way of, which has become, like, internationally accepted now, his way of stressing stuff much more.
Well, well, well. It must be 5 in Tulsa because it's 6 o'clock in NYC.
For years, Matthew walked around saying, could you be any more of an idiot? Could that be stupider? And he ad-libbed those things, and they started putting those in the script as a regular thing that he said. And the same goes for the way Schwimmer would spin a line.
There's a line I do remember, which David Schwimmer does brilliantly, where, do you know the episode where Chandler, I think, goes to Joey's tailor and gets basically felt up by the tailor?
Joey's tailor?
took advantage of me.
And then Joey says, you know, that's what they do.
Ross, will you tell him? Isn't that how a tailor measures pants?
Yes, yes, it is. In prison.
It's just, he just does it so well, and you know, with such, you know, they have a thing that they're able to do in Friends, which is really stress lights, like almost shout them, and yet it sounds great.
Hold on. There's something different.
I went to that tanning place your wife suggested.
Was that place the Sun?
The fact that Friends was shaping everything from what we wore to how we spoke meant it soon attracted the attention of the greatest cultural barometer of all, Hollywood. The movie world had never seen such an influential TV show, and it quickly began to change the way it viewed an industry it had always looked down on.
There used to be a big stigma with TV actors doing film roles. You weren't really allowed to cross over from one medium to another.
When Friends started 10 years ago, pretty much movie actors did movies and TV actors did TV, and never the twain shall meet. And then, yeah, over the last 10 years, the line has blurred a lot.
I think that there's such a shortage of people who are seen as stars who can really open a movie that they're always looking for the next talent, and television is the logical place to look for them.
When Hollywood went looking for a leading man, the first cast member they found was Matt LeBlanc back in 1996.
I think in the mid-90s, a lot of the Friends actors were being thrown maybe subpar scripts that possibly they wanted to kind of cash on while they're famous. And most notorious of this was Matt LeBlanc, who was in a movie starring opposite a monkey.
He's a chimpanzee. Animal. I love you too, buddy.
Matt had more success in Lost in Space, where he once again played the good-looking tough guy.
Try to come back in one piece.
Listen, Doc, I'm thinking this is your basic kiss for luck occasion. Wouldn't you agree?
Thinking. It's not really your strong suit, is it?
Despite his success, for real big screen impact, the cast had to learn to move away from playing characters similar to the Friends.
It's very difficult to say take someone who's been doing light comedy and want to rush them into a deep sort of, you know, brooding drama. So I think the idea was to put them into comedies and romantic comedies, and just generally that's a very tough genre to pull off well.
If you have a moment, I'd like to take you two on a little tour here of our facility.
Why, that would be lovely.
Great.
Matthew Perry starred in a string of romantic comedies, but initially struggled to shake off the Chandler persona.
How many pounds were you looking at losing?
Well, I don't think it's important to talk about money at this point, do you? You see, pounds, money. Quiet.
It's extremely tough to break out of your TV role into becoming a major movie star. I mean, for a person who's got a recurring role in something as popular and as set as Friends, it's quite unusual and extremely difficult to break the impression that America has of you, or the world has of you.
Courtney Cox was the first to discover that success was possible by playing a radically different character when she starred as the ambitious and unsympathetic news reporter Gail Weathers in Scream.
Stop right there. I'm not here to fight, I just need to talk. Kenny, camera, now. Off the record, no cameras. Forget it. Please. You owe me.
I owe you shit.
You owe my mother.
Your mother's murder was last year's hottest court case. Somebody was going to write a book about it.
Right, and it had to be you with all your lies and bullshit theories.
What is your problem?
Courtney Cox played a kind of nasty, conniving, really venal, horrible person in it, and she was pretty good.
Just someone really different from the character I play on Friends, and she's a little bit of a witch, and it was just a really fun person to play.
Others soon realized the power in breaking away from their Friends character.
I played this guy Ross 8 months out of the year, and I love playing him, but I'm also looking to keep growing as an actor and to keep things fresh for myself.
It was clear that if he needed to make a success, he was going to have to play something different to Ross. that he does in Friends. And so the rest of his choices have been trying to get away from that particularly apt pupil, which is a brilliantly dark film.
You're gonna tell people I did something to you, Todd?
I don't want to drag you down with me, but I will. I'm better at this than you are.
Better at what? I'm trying to help you, Todd. Can't you see that?
You've helped enough.
Well, I won't just do nothing.
We're gonna fucking have to!
But it's behind the cameras that David Schwimmer has really made his mark.
David Schwimmer has directed a lot of episodes of Friends, and he has made it known that he really wants to get more involved in the behind-the-scenes process.
The great thing about working with David as a director on the show was because he was such a huge piece of the show that it's just that confidence, you know, that he knows what works.
He's such a generous actor, and he's such a, you know, his instincts are so good that you benefit just by sitting next to him as an actor. He's going to give you some ideas, he's going to tell you what he thinks, and so it was really just a natural evolution that he should be directing.
He's a tremendously talented director, and he will have a very long future in that if he decides to go that route.
Of all the cast, it's Lisa Kudrow who's impressed most with her choice of acting roles.
Sure, if I'm going to do something when I'm not doing Friends, I'd like to do something different.
Personally, I think possibly the best movie made by any of the Friends cast members while Friends has been running is The Opposite of Sex, which is a Don Roos movie with Christina Ricci, and Lisa Kudrow's in it, and she steals the movie effortlessly.
Lisa won critical acclaim playing a character completely different from Phoebe. Lucia is a brittle and uptight spinster.
You're probably a blessing in disguise. Fucking good disguise.
In The Opposite of Sex, we had her in the most unflattering outfits, and we lit her very badly because we tried to put some age on her. She was all up for it.
Oops. No. Like you give a shit. Like this is incendiary material. Does this have any effect on you at all?
What am I supposed to say?
I mean, I could like dance around you naked. Vagina, vagina, vagina. Does that word do anything for you?
She won the New York Film Critics Award that year, and it was big for her. It was very, very, very exciting to see that, to be a part of that.
She has managed to keep this indie side to her career. Her most recent role is a film called Wonderland, which is a very dark, quite vicious film about the porn and drugs side of Hollywood in the 70s. And she, again, has a very, very key emotional role.
Everything that we planned could happen now, okay?
I don't want a fresh start with you, John. Wake up!
Oh, listen.
Okay? No, you listen. I am through supporting you. What do you think, I would just leave and never see my family again?
Sharon.
You've gone too far
No,
this
hang on
time,
a second.
pal.
If you don't help me with this, I am dead.
You're already dead.
Recently, it's Jennifer Aniston who's broken down the barriers between TV and Hollywood, although she struggled early on in a series of lightweight romantic comedies.
Well, you know what? No matter what I do, there's always going to be those people that say, she just plays Rachel on Friends, so screw them. I'm sorry. Oh, God.
It was The Good Girl in 2002 that really established Jennifer as a credible movie actress.
Jennifer Aniston's role in The Good Girl was about as far from Rachel as you could get. She was sort of a schlumpy Texas housewife.
And it seemed to go down very well with the critical community. It was a decent film, and it has given her a little bit more credibility. And if she can keep mixing that indie value with the sort of bigger budget Bruce Almighty's, then she's got a very long career ahead of her.
Oh!
Morning.
Good morning.
And the huge box office success of Bruce Almighty really cemented Jen's status as a bankable Hollywood star.
I mean, I know I woke up this morning and I felt like my boobs were bigger. I mean, do they look bigger to you?
What? No. Bigger.
Oh, come on! Look at them!
All that time spent on Hollywood's red carpets did have its advantages. When the news got out that Jennifer Aniston was secretly dating one of Hollywood's hottest stars, the media had a field day.
Jennifer and Brad never, at the beginning of their relationship, wanted to be seen together, and they sort of tried to figure out a way to go about their business wearing baseball caps and everything they could think of, you know. I mean, you kind of want them to be sort of, you know, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, and they're completely not. They're very low-key. They eat at cheap Mexican restaurants in this town. You see them all over the place. They always look kind of grungy. They've always got funny clothes on, and they don't ever look like you would expect them to look.
When they later married at an exclusive wedding in the Hollywood Hills, Jennifer's position as a female icon was assured.
Well, I think what was fantastic about Jennifer Aniston marrying Brad Pitt was that suddenly, from magazine readers' point of view, so you're talking about a really female audience, there's this girl next door who's quite pretty, who's talked about losing all this weight, you know, made a real success of herself, and suddenly she's just married the most marryable man in the whole world, and you think, oh, that's absolutely brilliant, and we could do that maybe.
I know that Brad was a real fan of Friends before he and Jennifer got together, you know, and there's something funny about Brad that he was a little bit starstruck by that cast when he first started going down there.
But he soon got over his nerves and was persuaded to take part in one of Friends' most legendary episodes.
I was there when Brad Pitt walked through the door, and they had to shut everything down for about a half an hour just because there was chaos in the stands. The audience, you would think that it was like the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
This is Phoebe.
Hi.
Hey.
They were just hysterically crying. All the women in the audience were crying. They never did that for me.
Typical.
I'm sorry, what?
I said it was typical. Typical of you. Rachel Green, Queen Rachel, does whatever she wants in a little Rachel land. Seriously, who is this guy?
But it wasn't only Brad Pitt who made the trip to Lot 24 at Warner Brothers Studios. Friends was ushering in a new era of the superstar cameo, and Hollywood's elite were queuing up to take part.
To be brought in to do guest shots on the program.
Well, it didn't hurt that the cast was so attractive that they dated half of the stars in Hollywood, so that would sort of bring people in, or married them.
Well, it's simple. It has an enormous audience, and in terms of being a commercial success and phenomenon, it's very good for business people or performers to appear and be a part of the show.
I think everyone in Hollywood wants to be seen as a great comic actor now. I think it gives your CV some, real credibility. And I think being on something like Friends, it also shows you as kind of game that you're not, you don't take yourself too seriously,
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and...
I suppose part of the attraction is the stories are funny, the characters are quirky. You know, I mean, if you think of like Gary Oldman, and wasn't he in that movie? He was shooting the movie where he was a drunk actor. He was hysterical.
And action. I would sooner die in this hellhole than see her back with you. Ah, that could be arranged. Slippery little bugger.
The show became so huge it was a boost for anyone's career. It wasn't seen as, oh, you're doing television. It was seen as, it was huge publicity to come in and do, only the hugest stars could ignore something like that.
Let's relax, Paul. You're doing great. She likes you. She likes you. She likes you. You know why? Because you're a neat guy.
Bruce Willis said he liked the show. Next thing I know, Bruce Willis is on the show, and he's willing to do like 4 episodes, and he's working like 24 hours a day, like he's working 12 hours on a movie and then coming to work with us for another 10 hours. That guy's amazing.
You're just a love machine. I'm just a love machine. But you have, baby.
Bringing in so many of Hollywood's elite to play comedy cameos on Friends was unique in TV sitcoms. But it was the way that the cast would negotiate their own contracts that would really change television history.
be like you. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Despite its laughter and feel-good warmth, the world of Friends was actually one of dysfunctional families and broken relationships.
I was in high school the first time I saw Friends, and it seemed like an incredibly glamorous and exciting way to live, where it was, you never heard about these people's families. They just lived with their friends.
Hey, you know what a really good rainy day game is?
What?
I mean, naked game. Strip poker. We should totally play strip poker.
No. What, are you crazy?
Come on, when you go away, you have to play. It's like a law.
Friends had no parent figures. You always had those in sitcoms before. In the old days, it was parents. But even when you went into these institutional families, there was generally a boss.
When the pilot was watched, one of the big worries at NBC was there wasn't anything for an older audience in there.
And that means I get Joey's boxers.
They wanted us to have a father figure at the beginning of the show. They actually wanted us to have a cop, Stan the cop. And he was in a couple of run-throughs, but he never made it on film. Like, he would sort of be the older presence. They would get advice, or he would give an opinion that, you know, sort of gave us the sense of a difference between two generations. And it was like, every time we saw it, it was like, blech.
Parents would come and go. But half these parents had no more authority than their kids did. As a matter of fact, a lot of these parents needed their children to sort of ground them in their own kind of confused, adrift existence.
Here, these are my parents, Judy and Jack Gillard. It's lovely to meet you.
So, are you his mother or his father? What? I've never seen one before.
This show is about the friends and it's about their perspective. Therefore, to have parents who are as peculiar and eccentric as the friends in their way is a very good juxtaposition and identifiable to people, you know, who come from a family, who look at their parents as not being with it.
Hi! I can't believe Emma's already won.
Oh, I remember your first birthday. Ross was jealous of all the attention we were giving you. He pulled on his testicles so hard. We had to take him to the emergency room.
Well, I think possibly the dysfunctional families come out of a period in America where the culture is sort of going through this acceptance that really basically everybody's family was dysfunctional in one way or another.
Our little boy is getting married.
Oh, look at you, so handsome.
You look beautiful, Mom. You look beautiful too, Dad.
In Friends, all of the parents, all of the family members that you see after, you know, that you get to know along the years, are very odd. You know, really are quite characters. You know, perhaps it makes you think that that's what drove these guys together. You know, that their families are so odd that they had to escape, and they have that in common.
Now, Chandler, dear. Just because your father and I are getting a divorce doesn't mean we don't love you. It just means he would rather sleep with the houseboy than with me.
More turkey, Mr. Chandler.
But it wasn't a lack of authority figures that made their lifestyle so surreal and appealing. It was also the city they lived in.
I think wanting to be there is a hugely important part of the success of any sitcom.
There's no question that Friends is a New York City fantasy. It says to you, if you move to New York, you're going to live in a beautiful, posh apartment, you're going to have fabulous, beautiful friends, you're going to have an outstanding social life, you can hang out in a coffee shop all day long, and you don't really have to work.
New York is awesome!
They were kind of living the American dream, which is to come to New York and sort of have a good time. Nobody who comes to New York actually has that happen, but it happens on television.
And the one part of living in New York that's most appealing about Friends is their spacious loft apartment.
You couldn't get an apartment like that in New York. No, never, not a chance. I'm from New York. I lived in New York, and I had a bathroom where, you know, you get up off the toilet and hit your knees on the sink. That's about all you're going to get.
I've never seen a living room that big, you know. I mean, I've never seen one. Or when I've seen one, I'll tell you this much: it wasn't a chef, or you know, it had to be, you know, the chef.
The influence of Friends has meant demand for loft space in New York has gone through the roof.
Friends has been an extreme success, and the loft has always been something been growing tremendously with the show. It becomes more attractive. You're seeing more people in the corporate world saying, you know what, I want to live in a loft. I want something different. I want to have the big windows. I want to have the high ceilings. I want to have the wooden bars coming down. I want to see space in my living room. And just that alone in Manhattan is very unusual.
If you want a loft apartment like this, it would set you back over $2,000 a week. And as more people bought into Friends, the program became a lifestyle and an aspirational advertiser's dream.
We're living at a time where there are so many viewing options. There's so much competition that very few shows galvanize a mass audience. Very few shows live up to that idea of broadcasting, of bringing in people, all sorts of people, to watch one show and making it appointment television. Friends has done that.
Advertisers are desperate for the Friends demographic. These are people who are outside of families. They're not spending money on their kids' schools. Sometimes they don't even have mortgages. This demographic for advertisers and marketers is the ripest peach on the tree.
It's marketed an idea of America and an idea of single living all over the world.
Open your eyes.
Sweet mother of all that is good and pure. You know, you could be growing up in Thailand, you could be growing up in Birmingham, you could be growing up wherever, and you all see this kind of template of living.
Even as far away as Cairo, Friends has left its mark. Friends has been shown in over 100 countries worldwide, and it's been translated into over 40 different languages.
O mój Boże! Jakże wam nie wstyd rozmawiać o tym publicznie? Kłopoty łóżkowe to sprawa męża oraz żony!
これで自分の気持ち分かったでしょ？もう危険な賭けするわね、もう。Und, wird er im Team siegen?
Oh ja, Anderson hatte einen Treffer.
Ah.
Anderson existiert gar nicht.
Picik és dagik és aranyosak, de a felnőnek akkor majd megutálnak.
No pude evitarlo. Cuando un puño va hacia tu cara te agachas. Eso es lo que haces.
¡No! ¿Pero qué pasa contigo?
Friends, again, such a phenomenon that it would sell in Japan and England and Turkey and you know, wherever there was a market for entertainment programming, you know, people had heard of Friends.
Once they get to 100 episodes, once they make 100 episodes, then they can syndicate it. And that's the holy grail, really, because they can syndicate it all over the world.
Syndication is where they make the real money. I mean, they're doing pretty well out of the show just going out for the first time, but the fact is, once it's syndicated, that show will be pulling in money, enormous amounts of money all the time for a very long time.
You combine the domestic grosses with the international sales, and it's literally got to be approaching $1.5 billion, $2 billion in its first, you know, the first 10 years of its life cycle.
So by the time Friends had been running for 6 years, the cast had been making a lot of people a lot of money. But were they getting their fair share?
To start out, their Friends were probably making $30,000 to $40,000 an episode, and the NBC and Warner Brothers gave them a bump up to $100,000. So through the first 5 years, they were making about $100,000 an episode.
But as time went on, and it realized that this show was going to make literally billions in syndication, you know, the actors were looking at the numbers that the show was racking up in sales and said, you know, we need our fair share. And that's when they sort of famously banded together and said, all for one for all, and we're going to renegotiate as a unit.
what's the price of Friends? The 6 principal cast members of the hit NBC series Friends have been given till noontime today to resolve their salary dispute. They are each asking $1 million per episode.
A lot of shows are described as ensemble comedies, but very few are. Usually there's someone whose name is on the show and the people around them, like a satellite, you know. But in Friends, it really was as equal as it's ever gotten.
They realized that if you pluck one person out of those 6 people, a thread has been pulled from the show that could unravel the entire thing.
As an ensemble, the 6 of us have a lot more power than one star of the show.
Lisa Kudrow is the ringleader. She's the negotiator. She's basically the one who spoke through those years as the unofficial tough gal, which is so hysterical because she plays the clueless one on the show.
The cast demanded their fair share of the profits, and finally, in one of the biggest coups in television history, they secured the largest salary increase broadcasting had ever seen, making Friends the most expensive sitcom in history.
Well, some good news. Your favorite Friends will stick around for another year. That's right. The 6 cast members of the hit NBC comedy have agreed to return. NBC will pay the show's producer, Warner Brothers Television, a record $10 million per episode, with the stars each making a cool $1 million per show.
NBC has got to give this because the amount of money they're making on each show is just like, they can't afford not to keep making that. So they're going to give the Friends cast members whatever they want, and they did.
That lesson is not going to be lost on subsequent actors on sitcoms. When you get a hit, that ability to stick together is going to be one that Friends will become a, they'll be studying this in MBA classes on, star negotiation.
It's an expensive proposition to pay an ensemble that includes 6 cast members $1 million an episode. I don't think we're going to see that again anytime soon.
They might be the last great union, the last great sitcom and the last great union in America, before they all get busted.
By the year 2000, these 6 multi-millionaires had changed the way TV was financed forever. But as we woke up to the new millennium, shows like ER or reality hits like Survivor took over the #1 spot. Friends began to lose its way, and the will they, won't they contract negotiations were hampering the storylines.
Hey, my sweater! I've been looking for this for like a month.
Oh my God!
They came up with things that were surprising and sort of last minute.
Oh my God!
And many people felt sort of a little bit of a betrayal of the characters, especially when Jennifer's character and Ross's character suddenly, had a baby.
I'm pregnant. Ross. Okay, whenever you're ready. And you're the father, by the way, but you got it.
Well, we're supposed to know everything that's going on with those people, and we really felt like we did. And all of a sudden, while they were like on a hiatus or something, Ross and Rachel got together and had a one-night stand, and we're just now finding out about it. A lot of people weren't happy with that.
The nominees for Outstanding Comedy Series are...
Friends had slipped to 5th in the ratings, its lowest position since the show started. And incredibly, in its 8 years as one of the world's best-loved sitcoms, it had never won any major awards for Best Comedy.
And Grace. And the Emmy goes to... Will and Grace.
But one terrifying event in 2001 would make people appreciate Friends like never before.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center.
Absolutely terrified.
Terrorist attack.
The horror of the September 11th attacks filled the world's television screens for weeks after the tragedy. But for TV shows, particularly ones set in New York, it left a question mark as to how to deal with the events.
I think shows that are set in New York, or where New York is kind of almost a character, the way it is on Friends or something like Sex and the City, they really had to sort of come to terms with, well, how are we going to handle this? Are we going to completely ignore it, or are we going to mention it in passing? And shows each took their own way.
You know, after September 11th, American programming was completely on hiatus for about a month. And when the programming started coming back in the regular schedule, Friends comes back to this enormous cry of welcome. It really became almost that the Friends returning was tantamount to a patriotic act.
The two biggest trends that the advertising world talks about post 9/11 are the growth of community and the growth of security from the point of view of a dangerous world. And so a program that was set in a very safe environment that was based all around community and friendship and love and respect and all those things absolutely answered a societal need, if you like, bang on the nail.
The ratings went through the roof. Everybody was talking about it. This was a real cultural moment, the return of some goofy sitcom. And I think the reason for that was that we now realized what we should have known all along, that the sitcom is an anesthesia. It's a sorbet in this case. It cleared the palate of all of that ugly imagery we've been seeing for a month.
9/11 was too big and too serious a thing for a sitcom to be able to deal with. So they knew they had to do it in such a way that was subtle and meaningful, but without sort of ramming tragedy down people's throats. So what they would do is they would sort of smuggle in props like firemen's T-shirts or American flags in to sort of show that this was a world post 9/11 without ever actually referring to it.
After 9/11, we invited 100 family members, surviving family members from victims of 9/11, and we flew them out here, and they came to our Christmas show. And just seeing how grateful these people were to get a little bit of relief from everything that they had been going through in the past months, how appreciative they were at the show. I'm watching them laugh. It made me feel, wow, you really connect with an audience in a very special way.
Hey! Look at that! That's a Christmas miracle!
What are you doing here?
I wanted to be with you. I missed you so much. Hey, who'd you miss the most? Monica. Gotcha.
The comforting familiarity of Friends appealed to a public in need of support. The show shot back to the top of the ratings.
Where is this going?
And the winner is Friends.
As proof of its renewed importance, the show picked up its first ever Emmy for Best Comedy.
I think it's significant that the show won an Emmy that year. I think because Friends was seen as a show that, you know, persevered, that showed that we could go on, we could still laugh, there could still be sense of humor about things about the country. We didn't have to stop and have, you know, what so many shows have, a very special, serious moment.
So Friends was back to its best. The ratings went through the roof. Then came the bombshell. The cast had decided that they were quitting Friends. After 10 years, the end was nigh for the world's favorite sitcom.
I wanna be like you!
Oh, please. Yesterday on the subway, you couldn't stop staring at that woman with the big breasts the whole time.
For your information, I was staring at her baby. We're about to be parents.
Oh, sorry.
After 10 years at the top, it was time for our Friends to move on. The final series saw the writers address the reality of our friends ending their much extended, carefree youth.
Oh, it's like the end of an era.
I mean, all I'm asking for is just a little emotion.
I don't cry. It's not a big deal, okay?
Well, you're not gonna like what's coming.
This show was really about that time in your life where you're not quite an adult and you're not a kid anymore. And they're all kind of adults now, so it's probably time to stop.
Honey, I'm old.
I think it takes a lot of nerve to say no to the kind of money you make, the kind of fame you have, the kind of ongoing presence in people's lives. Because no matter how much you complain about it, it has to be gratifying to see your work recognized and appreciated.
The cast themselves, you know, they're doing movies, they're kind of launching themselves out into the world, and also they're getting a bit long in the tooth to be hanging around that coffee shop, acting as if they're still in their 20s.
Oh, I can't believe you get to meet Donny Osmond.
Seriously?
Yeah-huh.
Ross and I always wanted to be Donnie and Marie.
You guys just keep getting cooler and cooler.
Knowing definitively that this is going to be our last year, it really allowed us to plan for the finale and to really set stories in motion that could all pay off in the finale.
This generation was moving on and at last accepting responsibility. After years of living as a free spirit, Phoebe finally settled down with a husband.
Thank you all for being here to witness this blessed event. The cold has now spread to my special place. So I'm gonna do the short version of this.
And Mr. and Mrs. Chandler Bing gave up their freedom in the city to become suburban parents with responsibilities.
We got the house.
Oh my God.
I just didn't want to tell you in front of them.
Oh my God, we got it! We got the house!
We're getting the house!
Oh.
We're getting a house.
And a baby.
We're growing up.
But what of the most enduring storyline? The on-off love affair of Ross and Rachel.
Ross,
Yes.
just so you know, with us, it's never off the table.
Damn it, it's never off the table.
It wasn't until the last ever episode that we saw the conclusion of one of TV's great love stories.
Oh my God, did she get off the plane? Did she get off the plane?
I got off the plane.
She got off the plane.
I do love you.
I love you too, and I am never letting you go again.
Okay, because this is where I want to be. Okay, no more messing around. I don't want to mess this up again.
Me neither, okay? We're done being stupid.
Okay. It's you and me, all right? This is it.
This is it. Unless we're on a break.
Hopefully, if we've done our job right, you will leave the show feeling like the characters' lives are going on past the show. That it isn't just a TV show and it's over. But in fact, these are real people and they have lives that'll continue, and we just don't get to see those shows.
Hey, do you realize that at one time or another, we all lived in this apartment? Oh, yeah, that's true.
I haven't.
Wait a minute, what about that summer during college that you lived with Grandma and you tried to make it as a dancer?
Do you realize we almost made it 10 years without that coming up?
But on the 6th of May 2004, this friendship was over. In America, the last episode was watched by over 50 million people, and the world mourned the end of an era. 30-second advertising slots were sold for over $2 million each, and with that kind of money being generated, TV bosses weren't quite ready to say goodbye to such a unique phenomenon.
NBC approached me and Warner Brothers approached me to, do this, the Joey show, the spin-off show, and I gave it a lot of thought, and I thought, yeah, I think to take this guy in a new direction and, in a new environment might be really fun.
I think the model is clearly Frasier from Cheers, that sort of spinning off a character and trying to build another sort of institution around it.
It makes a certain kind of sense, just the way it made sense for Frasier to leave that bar and open up his psychiatric practice on the opposite coast, for Joey to leave New York, go to LA, and become what he's always wanted to be, a TV star.
Whenever you're ready, Joey.
Right. J'ai beaucoup, Claude. C'est pour la loup bla bleu.
I'm sorry, what's going on?
Dude, come on, French it up.
Matt is very courageous to try it because the critics will be aimed at that show. And even the audience will probably think, I don't want this to be as good as Friends. Friends was special in magic, and why are they trying to keep it going? But I think a bigger proportion of the audience will be glad that that world still lives.
Hey, did you get the turkey bacon? Oh my God! Oh my God! Who is that?
It's Joey. Whether Joey's a hit or not, Friends will always be remembered as more than just a sitcom.
It was really emblematic of a time of enormous prosperity in this country where things were on the rise, the economy was booming, people were making a lot of money, places like New York were becoming safe playgrounds after a long period of decline. And it really is almost a time capsule for a place that was a really fun place to be in the 90s.
It was such a huge part of all of ours coming of age, and it was incredibly comforting on the one hand, also trend-setting on the other. It's just, you know, huge pop culture for us, so no one of our generation will ever forget it.
With the 234 episodes sold around the world, forgetting Friends is not an option.
Friends will be on TV longer than any of us are around. This will be, you know, in syndication until we're all dust in the wind.
In essence, shows in reruns become our reference points in culture. They become our folk culture to some extent.
There are going to be generations of people watching this show 20, 30 years' time, I would have thought. So I think it's going to leave a serious cultural legacy, yeah. Because it's very, very good.
What are you doing here, Santa? Well, I'm here to see my old buddy Ben. What are you doing here? Weird turtle men?
I think the legacy of Friends probably is cultural in that it's become totally normal and acceptable to be late 20s, early 30s, living with a group of friends, to not be married, that kind of thing. It's given quite a good reinforcement to the way people live in modern society. I think the interesting legacy will be to see where does comedy go from here.
All kinds of different shows have come and gone. In the slot after Friends that were intended to take over Friends' position, and it's just never worked.
These people are talented. It's not just that they're good looking and have good writers. God knows there have been a lot of shows with good looking people with funny, ugly writers in the back writing them good lines. It doesn't work. Those people have a certain magic.
Bring it on! Put the plates back in the boxes! Put the plates back in the boxes! Did you just push me? Yeah, I think I did. All right, that's it. Okay, forget the bubble wrap. There isn't time!
The American sitcom is kind of in a pickle. With the ending of Sex and the City and Frasier, now Friends, it's almost as if the form is going through this fallow period. This happens in America, you know, things come and go. A few years ago, everyone said, you know, the hour-long scripted drama is dead because reality TV is going to kill it. Now everybody's saying the sitcom is dead.
And the Golden Globe goes to Ricky Gervais, The Office.
The idea of Jennifer Aniston, wife of Brad Pitt, half of the most glamorous couple in Hollywood, passing a Golden Globe to Ricky Gervais, a fat bloke from Reading. It was absolutely magical. But I think it probably said a little bit more. It actually probably said that there is a certain kind of comedy that's time has passed to some extent, and there's a new kind of comedy which is going to capture our imaginations more. And I think that if you're looking at who represents 20-somethings now, I think it's less Chandler and Joey and probably more Tim and Gareth.
We may well be seeing a new generation of sitcoms, but will we really love them as much as we love Friends?
When a show like Friends came on, it washed over you like a warm bath. It drugged you culturally in just the way that has made us love this medium for over half a century.
I think Friends will be right up there in the top 5 of great shows, American sitcoms. Mostly plain and simple just because it was hilarious.
Oh, you are on a roll, mister!
It was just going to be one fun week of work with a bunch of fun people, and it turned into 10 years of something really joyful.
Has it been that long?
Wow.
Sometimes I feel like literally I'm going to be 60 years old in a walker, or maybe let's give myself 70, in a walker, and I'm going to be that guy from Friends.
Uh-huh, go on.
That's it. That's my whole name.
That's your whole name. Okay, perfect.
Friends has given me the best education in how to do quality television that I could have never afforded at any college.
I made some really good friends here, and it's just time to move on.
You know, I had some girls come up to me once in a restaurant, these from India, and saying, you know, we watch your show in India, and we love you, and it's great. And I just thought, oh my God, Friends is on in India.
Yeah, baby. Why would they do this? People will pay to see freaky stuff.
You know, I can walk around in any city in the world, even in some place as exotic as Iceland, where I once visited, and hear people actually quoting lines that I wrote. That is the most mind-boggling and most satisfying thing a writer could ever want. All the other stuff is just icing.
Next tonight, the last ever episode of Friends. The official book, Friends Till the End, the one with all 10 years, is in the shops, priced £18.99. To order your copy, call 0870 1234 344 or hit channel4.com/shop. 9 o'clock tomorrow night, the Comedian's Comedian counts down the top 50 comics of all time. Wonder if Paul Whitehouse will go down a storm.